Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have Mark. Mark has a bomb drop of May 23rd, 2023, a date of marriage of 2002, and his wife is a vanisher who is a high energy replayer. He says, my wife was molested by her father when she was between the ages of 5 and 9, or 5 to 9 years old. Her mother then divorced her father, and she was a horrible parent also. He goes on. I've had problems with alcohol for a number of years, and we both drank, but she stopped drinking January 2023, so January of this year, as her New Year's resolution. I continued to drink until the beginning of May of 2023. Her father died in March 2023. She also started menopause at that same time. This is when I started to notice the changes in her. Do you think that this is a combination of a midlife crisis, menopause, and the damage from her amygdala from childhood damage? After bomb drop, she continued to live with me and sleep with me and have sexual relations. She said she needed space and wanted to figure out what she wanted to do. Then in August, she said she felt guilty that she was, it says leaving me on, I think he means leading me on, that she was leading me on, and she went on a vacation to Maine with her mother in September, late September, and she never came home. She sent me divorce paperwork, but she hasn't filed, and I've been a hot mess emotionally. I joined Marriage Helpers, and that was good. I had her where she was going to be going to a couples workshop, but she backed out of it. Okay, so let's first look at the question about whether is this a combination of midlife crisis, menopause, and amygdala damage. First thing, it's all guesswork. We don't have, or I don't have a diagnostic test. I'm not a diagnostician. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a medical professional, any of that. We know that. But so what do I think about it? And that's all I can tell you from the information given. We all have trauma. And trauma, especially trauma in childhood, erodes resiliency. She has severe and significant trauma. So she would have an amygdala that is probably more of a hair trigger. So she's more sensitive to traumas now. She is maybe more likely to, and her brain, let's say her brain instead of her brain may be more likely to think things are a danger when they're not. So she may be more likely than other people to go into fight or flight. So she goes into that easily. She can go into a panic easily. Whereas somebody who has greater resiliency is more protected from that. So that is probably very true. So that's the amygdala damage we're looking at. Then a combination of midlife crisis and menopause, yeah. Those are often go together obviously with the women. Yeah, one can I don't know if a midlife crisis could trigger a menopause, but menopause can definitely trigger midlife crisis. But forgetting the menopause, dad's death would trigger it also. So she has a perfect storm of triggers as well as an ideal conditions from childhood for her to have a midlife crisis. So then in August, she felt guilty for she was leaving. So she hasn't communicated very much since leaving in August. Yeah, she's trending toward vanisher, but we don't know that she really is because it hasn't been so long that things could change. But you're right, that is a trend line that she's showing. She did send you paperwork. It looked like you said she hadn't filed it. What should you do now? Her backing out of the Marriage Helpers workshop, not bad or good. I mean, it's kind of, it wouldn't have worked now. I don't know if an MLCer goes to a workshop in the beginning, that can plant seeds, and that could be part of what helped them return later. The workshop could help both of you in getting a foundation underneath something and then they still leave, go through the crisis, and then you're upset. But I thought we were working on things. But if you just recognize it as something built for later, and they don't, they just think it didn't work. But years down the road, that really did do something. But it's kind of like they don't recognize that. You might not even recognize that as something, but it's still a good thing. But at the same time, somebody who doesn't know that can go to one of these workshops and then come back and everybody's happy and, oh yeah, we're going to do so much better. And then the MLCer cycles again. And they think the workshop didn't work. And they get more disappointed, more resentful, the more bomb drops you think you have. Because you have these different expectations that are normal expectations for normal, healthy, stable relationships. But in MLC, they set you up to be disappointed. They set you up for resentment because an MLC is going to cycle and say positive things you want to hear and make promises and say they're going to make amends, and then they're going to fail at those. They're going to go back to the alienator. They're going to go back to an addiction. They're just going to fall off this wagon because they haven't really gone in and solved the problems. And that is where the counseling and the workshops aren't helpful. Counseling ones can be traumatic. So what you need to do now, because you're an emotional wreck. Yeah, I bet you are. And is first thing, work on that sobriety. If you need a 12-step program, yes, especially not just a Maine AA, but also the programs for Al-Anon, the programs for the dependents and things that are going to help you understand codependency, because they are the best at it. And given that you are both drinking, you said you've had a problem for many years, but you both drank. And if she had an occasional drink, like, when you go out to dinner once every few months, she had a margarita, you wouldn't have probably said we both drank. You would have mentioned that you drank because her drinking was so intermittent and infrequent, it wouldn't have been worth mentioning. So to me, it sounds like you had more of a problem, but you both are drinkers. So was there some codependence? Was there some addictive going on? Even if you weren't, you haven't said you're an alcoholic. Even if it wasn't to an addictive level because you were able to quit. A few things that I think about that when I think about somebody who is drinking as much as an alcoholic, but one is addicted because they have trouble quitting and one can quit. They just don't want to, but they can do it, and they do it occasionally. Your liver doesn't know the difference. Your tissues, they don't know the difference. The difference, it might be up here in the addictive quality, but your organs, they don't know the difference. So you're doing the same damage to your body. It's just that you can. And so congratulations for stopping. But get some additional support in there with Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon, because she's going to come back and she has some traumatic qualities that will make her addictive, sensitive to becoming an addict also. And that's what they're good at. 12-step programs help you understand codependence, help you understand what it is to detach. Because the most important thing that you can do for yourself is work on your own healing. And that includes, as the most important healing tool, detachment. Those are most important. If she were to come back now or in 5 years or now and in 10 years, and you hadn't worked on yourself, you hadn't gone through and improved and become a whole, stable person, wouldn't work. And if the two of you stayed together, and I'm saying wouldn't work, and staying together can be separate, you could have a dysfunctional relationship that was just misery being together. And you don't want that either. What you want for a whole and healthy, stable relationship is for you to be whole and healthy without her, to be whole and healthy without another person, on your own. Two people do not complete each other. You don't take half a person, and then make a whole person. You get two whole people, and they complement each other. They can work together. Sure, you might have something that you're better at, and you balance each other's skills out. One's calm, and one is excitable. And maybe the calm person needs the excitement. Maybe the excitement person needs the calming force. But that's not about completing, it's complementing. And so work on yourself, focus on yourself. She is deeply damaged due to her trauma. Then she had a mother who is, as you said, horrible to her. She wasn't a good parent, but this is the parent she went with on vacation with in September. And this is the parent she was on vacation with when she did not return home to you. So it is not uncommon for MLCers to become closer to the parent or those other types of people who they previously had wanted out of their lives or who had not gotten along with. Sometimes they were in their lives because of their family, but in other cases, they were estranged. And sometimes we become very buddy-buddy with that person as well. So there may be some maternal influence going on as well if the mother is unhealthy. And her mother, she divorced her father, thank goodness, but a few years later than she should have, right? So the mother probably also has some codependent tendencies, some trauma in her own background that caused her to not be a great parent. She may be a very loving parent. You didn't say she is or isn't. That doesn't mean you're a good parent. You can be well-intentioned. And so she may have all of those and just not be good. Or she was a horrible parent who screamed and yelled all the time and never seemed to care. Or she just didn't know how. You don't know how to deal with the situation that you're in because you weren't given the right tools growing up. And you may have been, like she has been, given negative tools along with not being given the right tools. Negative tools, abuse, sexual abuse, things that damage the amygdala, damage her ability to be calm in situations. Her mom might have gone through that too, because we're looking at what could be a legacy. I'm just going on. Her mom wasn't a great parent either. She didn't know what to do. She was above her threshold level. And now she's close to her mom, somewhat, or letting her mom influence her. We don't know why. But I want you to keep that in mind as to why she has vanished rather than become more of a close contactor. Your job, however, it's just to do what you're required by the law in your divorce paperwork and work on yourself. And when she calls, be grace. And if she doesn't call, you can call her or reach out occasionally, just not regularly, and figure out how often feels acceptable to her. At what point is her complaint level? If you call her or contact her every 3 months, and that's okay, you can then back it off and see if 2 months works. But if, say, you were doing it every 2 months and she starts, what are you calling me for? And she gets upset and feels pressured, then you want to increase it again. Because it's allowed. Your contact is allowed. We don't ever want to stay no contact forever with the person we want to reconcile, because how does you reconcile if you don't have contact? It just doesn't make sense, right? But you need to become whole, healthy, and work on what you're going to do when you contact her so that you can be grace. Okay? I hope this is helpful, and I will see everybody in the next question.